I don't know why I feel like doing this during what is ostensibly supposed to be a video game stream, but I meant to do this the other day and we just didn't find the time. Why Vosh doesn't know what he's talking about when he claims worker co-ops are better for employees. What a title. Pretty descriptive. All I know about this person is A, fans of mine have told me it's a dumb video, and B, I've gotten like 8 emails telling me to go over it, and C, this person is a how I left the left type. Former Democrat of 20 years who went to a Trump rally. The article I wrote about my experience went viral and garnered 3 million views in its first week. I was featured by Fox News, Glenn Beck, Dennis Prager, and on dozens of radio shows, podcasts, and YouTube videos. Now, I haven't seen or read that article. Judging from the context in which it is written here, I'd be willing to bet it was something along the lines of, I'd been with the Democrats for 20 years, and all I'd heard was how hateful and divisive and intolerant the conservatives were. But when I went to a Trump rally, I tripped and scraped my knee, and a young boy ran up to me with a MAGA hat and placed it on my head, and I knew I had finally seen kindness in this world. Like, it'd be something like that. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. Lamau Vosh, that's it completely. Is that true? Does anyone have the article? Hold on. Dr. Carolyn Borisenko. Can we get the article? Here we go. After attending the Trump rally, I realized Democrats are not ready for 2020. My experience made me realize how out of touch the party is with the country at large. You see, I was one of those Democrats who considered anyone who voted for Trump a racist. I thought they were horrible, yes, even deplorable. But when I witnessed the amount of hate coming from the left in this small community, yep. It's the whole, I could literally generate this article like as an AI algorithm. I could write code to produce this article. This is like the default, like why I left the left. Actually, the right isn't that bad article. 34,000 claps, by the way. 34,000. And yet, for some reason, my seminal piece, in more ways than one, on the dog pill and why white women may or may not be fucking dogs has only 504 claps. Where, I ask you, is the justice in this world? Where? Let's get to it.
Do this video for 2 reasons. Okay, so I'm hesitant to do this video for 2 reasons. Number 1, this is commenting on something that happened back in December. It was a while ago, and so it's been some time. Maybe positions have changed since then. I don't know, and I'm not going to go back and watch every goddamn video to see if positions have changed. But that kind of brings me to reason.
I'm going to be super good faith here because I'm a super good faith kind of guy, even though I kind of poisoned the well from the beginning. I noticed that we are taking this from the first Sargon debate, which is arguably, it's weird to treat this like a tally, but I would say, from my perspective, the only debate I felt I lost. But without question, the worst debate I ever had. So it's interesting that's where we're getting this from, especially since at the time of this video's release, the one that I'm currently commenting on, the second debate I had with Sargon has nearly twice as many views. And we also talked about worker co-ops, I believe. So it's interesting to me. This is where we'll come from, but that's okay. Let's see.
And number 2, why I'm hesitant to do this. It's because I think of like all the things that I'm really...
Sorry about all the cameras, but I know we got me up here, and then we've got me again, then we got Sargon, then we got the doctor, I forget her name now, down here. Just stick with me, okay?
And I mean, guys, really not interested in. It's the bickering and the debates and the back and forth that happen on YouTube. But... you know, I was bored yesterday, and I kind of went down the whole rabbit hole of, like, why conservatives shouldn't debate BreadTube and all this crap. And I was like, you know what, whatever. And I started watching this debate. I may have had a couple of beers at the time, and I started watching this debate last night between Sargon and Vosh, who I've only seen a couple of videos from Vosh, and I haven't really been very impressed with any argument that he's made. But whatever, He's doing his thing. Who am I to judge? But he said something in this debate that is actual bullshit.
Uh-oh.
And it happens to hit directly on what my actual area of expertise is. Because, guys, like, this is not my job. This is not my day job in real life. My day job is as an organizational psychologist. And since Vosh talked about and actually advocated for appeals to authority in the course of this video.
Oh, no. Are we actually doing it? Are we doing the appeal to authority meme again? Okay, wait, I have to see where we go with this one.
Let's establish my authority to talk on this subject. Let's get it out of the way. And perhaps for the purpose of this, we're going to call me Dr. Borisenko, because my PhD is in psychology. My focus is on industrial and organizational psychology. I work with businesses to help build high-performing and resilient teams. That's what I do. That is what I do for a living. But it doesn't stop there, man.
Okay, so she's a contractor. She's hired by businesses to keep the workers in line. Do I understand that correctly? I'm pretty sure in business culture that is pretty common. How do we arrange the cubicles, and how do we organize the lunch breaks, and how do we decorate the break room to best optimize the morale of the workers? Okay, I'm guessing, like, from my experience at least, from what I've heard, that's probably what we're talking about here. I do like her recommended videos. We have a COD Daily over here. We have Tim Pool. We have Rose of Dawn and her response to the ContraPoints cringe video. And then we have the Joe Rogan and Sargon of Akkad video up there in the top right, if I remove my webcam. So I guess she's been on a bit of a binger.
Because one of the things I do is I am chief science officer of a company called Rally Bright, and literally the focus of Rally Bright, the entire reason that Rally Bright exists, is to build highly resilient, high-performing teams. So when I saw Vosh last...
Notice how I know where her arguments are going. Notice where, like, how her language is so perfectly corporate. Resilient teams. This doesn't have anything to do with worker satisfaction or happiness, I'd be willing to bet. It has to do with decreasing the likelihood of HR complaints and increasing productivity for the business. So since that's the perspective she's coming from, since she is literally like a lapdog of CEOs designed to keep workers in line, it makes sense to me that she might feel an intrinsic revulsion to my arguments on worker co-ops. But considering all the worker co-op arguments I have ever made are extremely substantiated by data, I would be very interested in hearing what counter-arguments she has.
Night saying to Sargon in this debate and advocating that worker co-ops and those types of structures produce more resilient teams, more productive teams, more successful teams, and teams that are better at that enjoy the work that they do more.
I did not make all of those claims. I have said that worker cooperatives are better at withstanding price shocks, which seems to be the case, and that worker co-ops are more likely to survive their first 3 years of business, which is the most tumultuous and most likely to fail period of time for any business. I did also say worker co-ops make people happier. I don't know what these weird nebulous terms are.
More resilient teams, more productive teams, more successful teams.
More resilient, more successful. I don't know what we mean by that exactly. These are very abstract, arbitrary designations.
And teams that are better at that enjoy the work that they do more. Man, he was so excited about this. I've got this research that says they're more resilient and more productive and all these things. Bullshit, man. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He absolutely does not know what he's talking about. That doesn't mean that co-ops can't work, but to say that they produce more resilient, better performing teams that...
Good thing I didn't make either of those claims, especially because I don't know what those things mean. What is a resilient team? Can someone actually, like, if we were to measure, like, with resilience of a team, what actual numbers would pop up? Like, if we were to think, like, how do you compare the resilience of one team to the resilience of another team? What numbers are you looking at? I genuinely don't know. I don't know. How would you even approach that?
Than private organizations that have a traditional hierarchical structure. It is absolutely 100% not true.
Okay,
not true.
Okay.
I do this for a living. And I'm just gonna...
this isn't actually an appeal to authority. We're 3 minutes in and all she's said so far is that this is her job. Like, this is actually an appeal to authority right now. It's funny she would call me out for that at the beginning of appealing to authority when all my arguments were based on, like, data. And all she's said so far is like, trust me, this is my job. He's lying. But maybe she'll provide data soon. I'm interested.
I'm going to give you one example that I think shows this really emphatically. Now, this is not actually a worker co-op model, but essentially what I'm going to look at is Zappos. Zappos. Remember Zappos? I mean, Zappos is obviously still around, but Zappos made headlines a couple years ago in the business world. This is from the Society of Human Resources Management, so pretty decent source there. They made headlines a couple years ago when they started to remove all hierarchical structure and managers out of the organization. They were implementing this model called a holacracy, which is basically like it's a much more egalitarian approach. Again, it's not a co-op, it's not kind of the same thing, but it is a much more egalitarian, dare I say, democratic approach.
So her counter argument is one business that I assume didn't do a great job transitioning into a less hierarchical business model, and it's not even a worker co-op. Is that what we're using? This is actually the argument we're using against data. I found one business, it's not a co-op, but it's a business, and it's not doing that great. And I mean, it's not a co-op, but it's not doing that great. This is from 2016 as well. Interesting. Hold on. Can we get some data on like Okay, this is the article from 2016. Yep, this is the article that she's looking at. God damn it. Work with me. Preserving a culture. Lessons from Zappos. Being intentional about your company's core values from day one can help to build a solid foundation to guide behavior as the organization grows. Few leaders understand this as well as Zappos' Tony Hsieh? Hsieh? I couldn't even begin to understand how this is pronounced, but cool last name, bro. 2016 was Zappos' lowest turnover rate since its founding more than 18 years ago. I wanted to know why, so I asked the chief of staff from Zappos. This article is praising Zappos' internal organization. Is her only proof that one article was written on growing pains? Zappos was blindsided with a slew of recent stories reporting that a new radical management experiment was backfiring, given that ostensibly alarming 18% of its employees left the company since March. He agreed to answer questions over email. Zappos execs defend restructuring, discuss employee departures. Zappos' turnover rate for 2015 is 30%, 10 percentage points higher than their typical annual attrition rate. And then the article actually ends saying 3 reasons Zappos' exodus does not spell doom for holacracy, which is the business model that they're attempting to invoke here. For the sake of playing devil's advocate to the prevailing wisdom that holacracy is to blame for the turnover at Zappos, here are 3 reasons employee attrition doesn't necessarily spell doom for holacracy at Zappos or anywhere else. So not only did the increase in employee departure drop off the following year and the company improved and is being celebrated for its internal culture, but the very article she's citing ends with a reminder that the problems with Zappos during 2015 were not necessarily a product of holacracy as a concept, and this is one business and it's not even a worker co-op. I'm so glad that I've begun taking the time to read the sources posted by people I argue with, because it's so because they always argue against the points they're trying to make. They always argue against the points they're trying to make. Every single time. It's so easy. I don't need to bring data to an argument. All I need to do is wait for them to give me data that agrees with my argument. Again, it's not a worker co-op, but the idea of a professional trying to use a single business failure as an argument against co-ops, except it ended up not even being a failure and the business quickly bounced back, and the article you're using to illustrate that it was a failure all agrees that it has nothing to do with the holacracy, and it's not even a worker co-op, and it's a single data point arguing against data. Oh man, I hope this video gets better.
To how work is organized, where you're removing this traditional leadership structure, you're removing that structure that most organizations are built on, where you have people at the very top and then people underneath them, all that stuff. So Zappos actually did this. They spent years implementing this change. And you know what happened? You know what one of the results was? They drove away 30% of their employees, which is 10% higher than their normal average turnover rate.
Yes, in 1 year of the multi-year transitionary period, they had a 10 percentage point higher employee departure rate, which then rounded off the next year in 2016 had a lower turnover rate than ever before.
1/3 of their
Don't read that next paragraph. Don't only read the purple one, okay? Don't go below that. It gets real scary if you go below that paragraph you're looking at right now.
Staff actually ended up quitting. So why might that be? Why might if we're creating this?
Oh man, she actually didn't have anything more than that. That was legitimately everything she had to say.
Much more egalitarian thing where it's all about, you know, relationships and how we work together and collaborative. It's very much similar to what you would find in one of those co-op models, to be really honest, where there's no one at the top, there's no leader and all this stuff. It resulted in...
That's not what a co-op is. Co-ops still have managers, they just don't have owners. Well, I guess everyone's the owner, but co-op doesn't mean there are no managers. But I guess I wouldn't expect her to understand that.
Driving away 30% of the damn team, man. And one of the reasons that happens is because this egalitarian approach, it only works with a very, 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 very specific type of work style. There are absolutely people that will respond to that type of work environment, but it is not the majority of workers. And I'll even go a step further.
Do you have any data to support that argument?
The people that usually drive businesses forward, the people that have the big ideas, the bold things that lead to businesses being successful, they have a work style that is directly contradictory to the type of people that are going to succeed.
Except worker cooperatives have a much higher likelihood of succeeding in the first 3 years of the business opening. I'm pretty sure the numbers were, and I would have to double check, less than half of traditionally owned businesses survive the first 3 years. About 60 to 70% of worker co-ops do. So I guess the entrepreneurial spirit that would lead somebody to want to own a traditionally owned firm actually is far less likely to survive in a business world.
In those types of in the more egalitarian types of organizations. So you've already just taken these people, the people that are going to build things, the people that are going to create things, the people that are going to have the really big, exciting ideas that you're going to be able to sell to consumers. You've just taken them and have essentially removed them from the pool of potential employees in your business.
No, you haven't. In fact, because worker co-ops pay better and have higher average employee satisfaction, your business is far more likely to attract high quality talent. And your business is also able to be more discerning with the talent that it brings on board because the decision to bring in new people is a democratic one. The workers at any given worker cooperative will have to collectively decide whether or not they're willing to take a collective pay cut if it means the temporary or long-term expansion of their business. This process has a very high selection bar that actually does a better job selecting for high quality talent than you would get from a traditionally owned firm. Do you have any data to support your point?
It's not good, man. There is no best work style. There is no worst work style. What we need to, in order to have successful businesses, in order to build high functioning, highly resilient teams, is you need a good mix of work styles. You need a good diverse mix. Dare I say, wait for it, diversity of thought. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Diversity of thought, diversity of...
What about a worker co-op means you don't have different types of workers and people with different mindsets and skills and abilities? It's actually astonishing. I actually can't believe she put this video out there and she thought like, damn, I am rebuking. This is the data she brought. She brought one article from 2016 of a not worker co-op that did bad, but actually it did good. She just didn't read that far down. And like, that's it. That's what she brought to me. I'm actually insulted.
Approach, because those big bold leaders, guess what, they balance out other types of work style, and people need
this is bootlicking. People need what? The big bold leaders to lead them?
Leaders.
Everyone needs leaders. You don't need bosses. Every workplace, cooperative or traditional, has leaders. What we're not looking for is bosses. You can be led in a co-op. Cooperatives still have managers. Managers can lead, but the leaders, in the case of a co-op, are collectively voted upon by the workers, not just chosen by the shareholders.
They need it, and especially
Also, what is this weird fucking bootlicking? It's really creepy. This person whose money comes from being contracted by, I can just imagine her talking to employees. Like, she's contracted by like the business to talk with them to increase employee resilience. And she talks with them. She's like, yeah, well, the workers, they need you. These people need to be led. They need to have a leader. Really fucking weird. Yeah, the slaves need masters. I mean, it makes sense that she jumped ship with the Republicans, right?
The people that are more successful in these more egalitarian type businesses, they are much more comfortable emotionally in a work environment where they have someone saying, this is good, keep doing this is bad, don't do this anymore.
You mean a manager, a thing that exists everywhere, including in worker co-ops?
These are the people who are literally looking for both guardrails. Now, in any social system, you are going to have people who rise up to those leadership positions. That is just going to happen naturally. That happens in a holacracy, just like Zappos has. Part of the reason why holacracies don't work. It happens in co-ops as well.
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed that.
To those leadership positions. That is just going to happen naturally. That happens in a holacracy, just like Zappos has. Part of the reason why holacracies don't work.
Wait. So first of all, the article you used literally said at the end, holacracies are fine. Wait, what does leaders rising to the top have to do with the fact, with your idea that worker co-ops and holacracies don't work? What is the relationship here, logically?
It happens in co-ops as well. You will always have people that naturally rise up to those leadership positions. But it is much more difficult. Like, once they get that little, here's what happens. Once they get that little taste of power, ooh, they want more of it, don't they? Gee, doesn't that sound like maybe a communist society?
Oh man, what a big brain PhD researcher. Well, worker co-ops work on paper, but in reality, one of them will seize power by leading a proletarian revolution to become the dictatorship of the... Holy fuck, this bitch is really dumb. This person is really, really unintelligent. Is that something we typically see happen at worker co-ops? Like, everyone is equal, but then like 2 years later, they're being led by autocrats? Is that something that typically happens? Can we get some data on that point? She really thought she had a gotcha too. She was like, complete speculation. Like, well, in worker co-ops, everyone's equal, but that means somebody's got to take power, huh? Just like communism. Like, she really thought she had a gotcha there. Like, inside, like 30 seconds before she said that, she was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking get them with this comparison. It's actually really embarrassing. I'm kind of cringing over here. Oh, I'm glad this is in the middle of a video game stream, so I'm like all chill, or like, I might like heart contractions might get a little out of control, okay?
Where these leaders...
Oh, we got 2 hums from that one.
Kind of rise up into what is supposed to be a very communal system, and they get that little taste of power, and once they get it, they don't let go of it, and they influence people to create all these systems that are specifically designed to keep them in power in privately owned businesses.
Can can I see a source on this happening in co-ops, that managers are elected to the leaders of their co-ops and then they create rules that keep them in power? What? Can I get some evidence on this? Maybe like a stat?
That are traditionally run, you don't have that problem because there is a very clear hierarchy of who you need to listen to, who is in charge. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having that hierarchy.
Man, even if what she was saying was true, like, isn't that an argument against her? She's like, dude, the reason why worker co-ops are bad is because people lose control and a tyrannical leader takes charge. But in regular firms, the tyrannical leader is there to begin with, so, like, it's chill. Nothing to worry about. Yeah, it's like, democracy doesn't work because it turns into a dictatorship eventually, so let's just start with the dictatorship. You could apply this to political logic, and she has, because she was the one who made that dumb fuck communism comment. I think, like, this woman is an authoritarian. Like, she probably just thinks that, like, most people are dumb sheep that need to be ruled over by, like, a more powerful or authoritative figure. Yeah, it's actually really creepy to see them, like, apply this pseudoscience.
That hierarchy produces a decision-making structure, so you know at the end of the day who is ultimately responsible for being the decider. And that is very, very important.
That's a typical problem in worker co-ops. Nobody can remember who the manager is. Everyone's so toked up all the time, they don't actually know who the manager is. They just forget, and people just do whatever the fuck.
When you're talking about leadership, because, you know, there is a place for collaboration, there's a place for compromise, there's a place for taking care of people. There's a very good argument to be made that the companies that take the best care of their workers are ultimately going to do better. And that seems to be what Vosh is really getting at here.
Yeah, I mean, worker happiness is factually higher in worker co-ops. So, yeah. Yes.
Is creating better, more successful work environments.
You know what the funny thing is? These people always make arguments that one of the greatest successes of capitalism and private ownership of firms is that the investment and the risk taken by the leader is what drives them to do great things. But in a worker cooperative, everyone is taking that risk because everyone collectively owns the business. Everyone has a direct, immediate incentive to contribute as significantly as possible to the well-being of the business, because everything that they do and everything they rely on hinges on it, and they benefit directly from that increase in performance. So wouldn't that argument of risk and investment play doubly so in worker co-ops because it would apply to everyone and not just a few people?
But I'm here to say that doesn't usually happen in co-ops, man. It just absolutely does not. So he can go ahead and
just trust her. She's got a degree, okay? Just trust. Oh, Vosh says people are happier in worker co-ops. Well, they're not. They're not. I'm a PhD. Just trust me.
But you know, traditional business structures are there for a reason. It's not to take advantage of the lowly.
You could defend slavery that way. This would be like, well, you think the blacks would do better if they ruled their own lives, but actually they need the leader and they benefit from being told what to do. You can't, like, that's just the way it is. There's a reason why we have slavery, you know?
Workers, that's not what it is, man. All those workers agreed to take that job. No one put a gun to their head. No one said you absolutely have to do this. They agreed to take that job. They agreed to that salary. They agreed to those job requirements. They are
the same fallback argument every single person makes. Every single person makes. There we go. Right back to the fake libertarian free will. The same bullshit. The exact same fallacious thinking every single time. It doesn't matter whether or not people have a choice to do something bad, that still makes it bad, and you should still try to do better things. hey, did you know that child labor was something that people willfully bought into? You would willfully engage in, you would sign the contract yourself. They didn't just rope you into it on their own. You made the decision. Do you know why we outlawed child labor anyway? Because it provided a toxic incentive for people to do things that were very unethical, which I would argue having 8-year-olds in coal mines was probably fairly unethical. I would argue that children dying at like 11 because they die in like a mine collapse is probably fairly unethical. I'd make that argument. So we banned it. But somebody like this would defend it. They would go like, oh, there's a reason why things are the way they are. If children want to do that, they can. It's very funny how reactionary these people are, that their arguments could be applied so far back that you could use them to invalidate the idea of slavery abolition. It's actually really, really impressive. Like that's how stupid, how primitive their thinking is, that the conservative argument hasn't really moved forward at all for like 200 years. It's pretty much the exact same set of arguments, just desperately wailing against people trying to make the world a better place and justifying it in whatever way seems most effective at the time. But I have to say, Doctor, this is a pretty ineffective rebuttal of my positions.
Are free to leave at any time. The vast majority of jobs in this country are employment at will. Any employee can leave any job for any reason or no reason at all. So they are free to make the choice and to go somewhere else.
Notice how that's not an argument against anything that I've said at any point. At no point have I made the argument people have literally no choice but to work at any given business. Now, most people have literally no choice but to work at a business. You get to choose your master, but you don't get to choose a different system. Not until I'm in charge. Worker co-ops, baby.
So I'm going to tell you one more thing. So because I work on creating highly resilient teams every single day, I know exactly what goes into creating a high resiliency team. This is
I'm not letting you advertise your bullshit here. Everything you've said here is so appallingly stupid. I feel like the business owners who hire you are getting ripped off. I actually feel sorry for the capital owners, that some of them may have been shanghaied into giving you money for your degeneratively low IQ takes. I'm actually, for the first time in my life, I'm actually feeling sympathy.
Framework that was developed over alignment with over resilience bullshit, man. And if any true. So this will probably be the last time that I wade into YouTube debate nonsense. But that's my position on this. And if anyone wants to question me on that, you're welcome to try. I'm not going to do any of these stupid little debate things because, again, I think they're stupid. But you go ahead and try, and I will put my expertise and my experience in this area against yours any day of the week.
Wait. Are you going to do debates, or wait, I thought you said you weren't going to do debates, but then you said you put your expertise up against me. Wait. Oh, I'd love to debate this bitch. Wait, you can't you can't say I won't debate people, but then you'll say like, I'll challenge anyone with my expertise. Hey guys, if you guys want, just because I'm only one person, if you guys want to respond to this person, Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, and ask in the comment section or maybe tweet at her, say, I'd love to have a pleasant conversation with her about some of the ideas that she laid forth in this video. Obviously do this in a very polite manner, of course. I don't want anyone to be brigading or acting poorly. Just feel free to, because I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with her. One of the things I've noticed about supporters of worker co-ops is that none of them own businesses with employees. Wow. Wait, that's the reverse argument! The argument of people like Sargon and Molyneux is that I'm a hypocrite for arguing for a worker co-op when I do have a business with employees. Wait, you can't you can't say I'm a hypocrite for not having a worker co-op for a business I don't own when I have employees, but then also say I don't have a right to speak on worker co-ops because I don't have employees. You can't do both. You can't do both. Oh, this is nice. I was hoping someone with a PhD would at least provide some research to back up their claims. I'm really surprised that someone with a PhD would assert anecdotal experience is more valid than research that is peer-reviewed and analyzed broad conclusions of data not biased by personal coincidental exposure. I wish I could show my commie boss this, but he'd fire me just for thinking outside the box. If I had a regular business and employees and somebody showed me this video and they were like, heh, gotcha, I would fire them because they were mentally deficient for whatever position they were currently holding. Even if their position, they're like, it wouldn't matter like what they do, they're not capable of doing it. If they watch this video and they come up to me and they're like, this is good points, then I instantly know, like I have failed in my like selective hiring. Oh, she's shit talking me here. From what I gather, this guy gets way more attention from people on this site than he merits. Ha! Stay mad, motherfucker. 4 million views a month and growing. Oh, so when do we start the countdown for when Vosh screams debate me, bro, at Carolyn? He can shout all he wants. It ain't happening. Ah, little communist, so ineffective with your insults, lol. John, oh, I hear you. I'm sure there will be shouting and crying that a woman that is way smarter than him told him off. Crying, laughing emoji. I love it. This person has done the intellectual equivalent of going on YouTube to take a gigantic shit on like a dinner plate and then leave before anyone could criticize her. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to title this video like brainlet Sargon fan attacks worker co-ops. Does her argument hold up or something like that? I think that'll. Yeah, I don't know why she even brought the video on there, because she didn't actually show any of my arguments, probably because that would have made it more difficult to actually attack the positions that I hold. What's actually disappointing is that the worker cooperative argument is one of the more complicated ones. There's not actually that much data on worker cooperatives. I have a lot of it compiled that I want to add to the research document, but there's actually a lot of room for like intrigue and I guess disagreement that I'm always open to. Like I could conceivably lose an argument if somebody came at me with the right data. Right now, the data that I have to work on is so sparse that it's basically all just reiterated in like pro co-op legal pages and the Wikipedia articles. Like here's Wikipedia, for example. Now, Wikipedia isn't exactly like the be-all, end-all of academic sources, but, I mean, here we go. Research on worker cooperatives. Worker cooperatives are more conventional, more productive than conventional businesses. Less pay inequality. Here's that resilience thing again. Worker cooperatives in British Columbia, Alberta, and Quebec in the 2000s were almost half as likely as conventional businesses to fail within 10 years. A 29% smaller chance of closure than other firms, a 3-year survival rate of 87% as opposed to 48% for traditionally owned firms. In 2005, 1% of German businesses failed, but the statistic for cooperatives was less than 0.1%. Higher resilience, higher worker satisfaction, higher worker trust, higher worker health, higher commitment. It's like across the board. Like, it's across the board better. It's like mathematically like a really easy argument for me to make, you know? There needs to be more data, but right now the data that exists only proves my point. But you can make arguments for like, well, would these worker co-op benefits still work in massive multinational corporations where they tend to be a little bit more hierarchical, like the Mondragon Corporation? And then we could have a really interesting conversation on like how much of a concession is valid, like how much of a concession is reasonable. You know, like how much can we deviate from the traditional co-op model before we're kind of like fucking this over, you know?